What is going on, guys? Welcome to Dynasty Dumbies, your home for the latest in college football action and news. We're your hosts, Tony and Hunter.
Pleasure to be here as always, Tony. We had an incredible week 2 slate of games take place this past week. And if you're wanting to see a breakdown of those games, please go check out our week 2 recap on our YouTube channel. But now we're going to be shifting our gaze to week 3, where we have some conference games finally kicking off and some matchups with some big potential playoff implications at hand.
But before we jump into these top storylines and games, we're going to do a quick check back into our individual and group rankings, including the AP poll. Now, our rankings we showed in our recap episode. Go check that out, where we dove deeper into it. But this is a quick little rundown on Hunter and I's rankings, where, just the usual stuff, typical top 5 for me, pointing out USF being at 11, and then Florida dropping to 25, Missouri jumping in at 24 on my side.
Yeah, and from my side, I have USF in the top 5, man. Got to give them the respect. 2 ranked wins against 2 pretty tough teams, in my opinion. So I'm giving them the respect they deserve with the chance to prove us right with Miami's game this week. I have Florida State on the top 10. No teams with the loss inside the top 10. I got Texas and Notre Dame sitting just outside there. And then I also have Mississippi State and Vanderbilt sneaking into the top 25. I think that they've earned their shot, so I want to see how it's going to play out for them in the future.
Now we're just going to show a quick glance of the AP and our combined Dynasty Dummy rankings. And just a quick reminder on our criteria when it comes to these rankings. Head-to-head is a key factor. Whether teams play each other and how those results end up is a big factor in it. We do not consider hypotheticals. There are no neutral fields here and no what if this, what if that sort of thing. Teams will not be punished for losing a title conference game. Makes no sense. And just overall team vibes on a lot of stuff.
And honestly, I think most importantly, these results matter. What happens on the field is what we really care about the most.
Absolutely. So after showing off our little rankings there, we're going to jump right into the weekly storylines we picked out this week, and just to see what's kind of going on into the week before we kick off these games on Thursday, actually. So to start off, we wanted to hit up on the Colorado quarterback situation, where it seems like there could be a bit of a controversy in Boulder, where they have now, I think, confirmed at this time where they will be starting quarterback Ryan Staub, who started in one game in 2023 when Shadur was injured. In the game against Delaware when he came in last week, he threw 7 out of 10 for 157 yards with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really sharp in that game last week against Delaware, in a game where all 3 quarterbacks for Colorado actually touched the field. But Staub's going to get the start over the Liberty transfer and Caden Statler and the freshman Julian Lewis. I wouldn't be surprised if Dion redshirts Julian. I think that makes the most sense. He is a true freshman, potentially the future for Dion there in Colorado. But a big surprise in Caden Slater not getting the start here. NCAA 25 legend, if you know, you know. I'm really surprised by this, but Ryan Staub has earned his dues, as Dion put it. He's stuck with the program the whole time, hasn't entered the portal, and looked sharp in that Delaware game. So he's going to get the nod this week. So we'll see how that plays out, and definitely a situation to monitor as the season progresses.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a great one to watch, and he looked fantastic in that game. So he'll have the chance to prove it once he gets the full start this time. Moving on to the next topic at hand, we wanted to quickly go over this AP ballot just fiasco that has arisen recently with certain individuals' ballots being brought to the limelight for the wrong reasons. And just to quickly kind of go over where one moved Florida up 2 spots for losing to USF and didn't even have USF ranked. So that's just an example of one.
Yeah, I don't want to call anyone out specifically for it. Being an AP voter, though, it is a privilege that I think that they really need to take seriously. I know that at the end of the day, the College Football Committee is going to determine the playoff, but the AP ballot does have significance. It does have an impact on brand reputation, where you're ranked, how you're viewed by the public, and it really can persuade public interest and ultimately how the college football playoff committee is going to end up ranking these teams.
Yeah.
I think it is something that needs to be taken seriously and not as some throwaway thing that is going to help balance it all out in the end. But I'll give the AP voters some slack here. It is a difficult job. If you're a beat writer for one of these teams on a Saturday, you're typically going to be at your team's game, focused in just yours. And as someone who sat up in a press box before, it is really challenging to scoreboard watch while you're focused on the game that's happening in front of you. So it's just a very tight line to follow, and it's really hard to be able to watch every game or be able to be in the know for every game. So it's definitely something that I hope these AP voters know, that these votes do matter, and it really can impact a program's trajectory if they're not going to be respected. And ultimately, if an AP voter makes a mistake, just own up to it. You know, everyone makes mistakes. I'm not looking for you to be perfect. I know that people are going to look at our rankings and be like, what the heck are you guys thinking here?
Yep.
Where that's what we're doing with them. So I know every vote, every ballot is open to interpretation. I just hope that they understand the importance of their vote and the privilege it would, because if the AP is looking for people to submit ballots, you got two guys right here who would love to.
Oh, yeah. I'd take it in a heartbeat. I mean, like you said, it's an absolute privilege for them to be able to do that for their job and their lifestyle, and it's something that would be amazing for any opportunity. So
yeah,
I think they really need to, the AP as a whole needs to just kind of maybe take a step back and look at it and possibly revamp, or, you know, if it comes to where specific people have to go, then specific people have to go. But this could be the first domino to fall that causes some change.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point. It's not just on these reporters. They did not just say, you know what, I have an AP vote right now. The AP selects these beat writers, so it's also on the AP poll to make sure that they are selecting people who are going to give the proper attention that's required or the proper dedication to these ballots. I know for these beat writers, they're often traveling. It is a taxing job at times, and that sometimes the ballot vote is the last thing that you have to get in. I just think that it is something that needs the correct amount of attention on it. If we're going to keep using the AP ballot, it is important to me, and I think to these programs, to get it right or get it as close and respectable to correct as you can get, because no one's ever going to agree on one single ballot or poll.
Absolutely. And speaking of people bringing attention, we want to move into our Heisman hopefuls here, where according to, we took these odds off of MGM Sportsbook, where LSU quarterback Grant Nussmeier is still the odds-on favorite. He's sitting at plus 900 according to MGM. He faces Florida this week at home, so a good chance for him to kind of solidify himself. But not far behind him, tied on the odds, Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer with having a sneaky good season as Oklahoma looks to string together some decent wins here.
Yeah.
Throwing for 270, one touchdown, one interception, but adding on 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So that's a good way to make your case, is to get those rushing touchdowns. So
yeah, I know. I know that's a guy you're high on, so probably excited to see him sitting here and tied for first already.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing odds change drastically like this, so to see these new faces kind of just jump on in is always exciting, because it just goes to show that great football is being played in other places. So it's nice to see, and he'll have a chance to really prove it when they go on the road to a G5 in Temple to really see if they can either pad those stats or if it's going to be another a rough awakening there.
Yeah, definitely going to be a potential game to pad some stats there. But speaking of some people who are playing some good football, Miami quarterback Carson Beck, he looks like the Carson Beck people thought he would be last year when everyone projected him to be that first-round pick. He is sitting at plus 1,000 on his Heisman odds right now. If I was a betting man, I think this is the guy I would be putting a little bit of money on. Miami has a chance to stay in that top 5 all year, and if he keeps playing at the level he is, he might be right back into that first-round draft pick selection and sitting at Radio City Music Hall at the end of the year as a Heisman finalist. He's got a tough test this week against USF at home, but if he can pull through and play well, I think it's really going to boost his odds, and we might see him become the odds-on favorite going into next week. But We have another quarterback, no surprise there, and Oregon quarterback Dante Moore, sitting at plus 1,100 on the odds, fourth best already. He is a newcomer to the top four here, and travels to Northwestern this week for a little lakeside game against the Wildcats there. Last game he threw for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's looked really good. Oregon has steamrolled everyone that they've played, but finally getting a little bit tougher of a challenge this week in Northwestern. So really looking at him and seeing how he performs there.
Yeah, I always thought Dante going into the season was going to be a sneaky addition there to the Heisman race. I don't know why he was almost criminally underrated at least in the Heisman odds. But I mean, Oregon's always a solid team, so you can never count out anyone on that roster. But so we're gonna go ahead and move on to a quick little preview of this week's game. The slate of games we have coming up. Just quickly want to touch on the first one here. Colorado going to Houston on Friday at 7:30. A big test for Houston in the first Big 12 game after a really strong start to the season, and then obviously Colorado going through a possible quarterback controversy. It'll be a test on the road for Staub to see if he can solidify himself as that QB1.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to be an interesting game. But a game that I'm really looking at as my potential upset of the week is USC at Purdue. Can the Boilermakers shock the surging USC Trojans? Purdue has a history of beating teams that are surging or top-rated teams.
Yep.
I think they have a really good chance this week. Saturday at 3:30 at Purdue. USC has looked really great, but got to travel across country to Purdue. I think there's a real chance that the Boilermakers pull this one off. So I am going to ride with them in this game. We'll see how that one turns out, though. But in an early season SEC matchup with ranking implications, we have Arkansas at Ole Miss Saturday night at 7 p.m. This is a really interesting SEC matchup. Ole Miss is ranked. Arkansas is on the outside looking in, but a chance for one of these teams to establish some early season traction in the rankings. I look for this game to be a little bit sloppy, but I think it's going to be a really entertaining one. I think at the end, though, Ole Miss is going to run away with it towards the end of the game.
Yeah, and going into the next one, my game of the week that I have had starred since the schedules have dropped is Duke traveling to Tulane on Saturday, which is a great power conference going to a G5 on the road, which we love. The return of Darian Mensah, and can Tulane get 2 P4 wins in the season compared to last year where they lost all their P4 games before their Week 1 game against Northwestern, which they had won by 20 points. John Summerall, the head coach, had gone winless against P4 opponents in his coaching career, so it's great to see him finally get one there. And I think it's going to be a kind of hostile return here for Darian Mensah. I had seen an article earlier today about how it was almost like a goodbye love letter, which nobody saw. I mean, he definitely snaked his way out of Tulane from what I had seen in reports, and how he was, before the season had even ended, before the conference championship game, he was basically 1 foot out the door, and his play did end up showing, because they absolutely just were abysmal in those last couple games of the season. But I think this is a massive game for both teams. Can Duke bounce back, and can Tulane get that P4 win to put them in those solid top 25 conversations? And then, go ahead.
I was just saying, I totally agree with you. I think it's important for Tulane to win this game. If they're going to compete with USF and the American, even if USF loses to Miami, I think their body of work could be better. And I don't believe these two teams play each other this season unless
they do not. They do not unless they meet in the conference championship.
Yeah, so this is a big game for Tulane. It has some big playoff implications for sure, so it's definitely a game to watch. But moving on to Minnesota at Cal, maybe return of the Pac-12 after dark, 10:30 in California. If Cal wins, don't be surprised if we see the return of the Calgorithm on social media. If you saw it last year, you know these Cal fans, they can really get active. The Calgorithm could be coming back strong if Cal can start 3-0.
Absolutely, yeah. The Calgorithm last year was peak college football. It was hilarious. I looked forward to it every week, so hopefully it can get up and running again.
Yeah, and we got a little fun matchup here. Oklahoma traveling to Temple Saturday afternoon. Another P4 traveling to a group of 5, soon to be group of 6 with the new Pac-12 outlook. OU is going to give Temple the return trip to Philly after they bashed them last year in Norman. A key injury, though, that we've been tracking for a little bit is Oklahoma running back and Cal transfer Jaden Ott. He's been battling a shoulder injury in camp, and he hasn't been a huge factor in the OU rushing attack, which, quite frankly, has been a little lackluster despite their strong start. If he can get healthy, he should add that spark to that struggling attack and really get OU over the hump, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, getting a star running back will 100% help that offense because their quarterback is already playing at such a high level. So just to give him that one extra weapon and a surefire running back to hand the ball off to, and you know he's going to get yards, makes it that much easier for the quarterback and the offense to be able to set themselves up for success. So moving on to a very interesting game that I'd like to see is Ohio traveling to Ohio State to play in the shoe.
Yeah, another interstate matchup between a smaller school and a bigger school. I think this could be a potential huge boost for Ohio football, especially after beating WVU in Athens last week. Potentially, I don't think they're going to be able to get it done against OSU. WVU is in a bit of a rebuilding spot, but I think it's great that these games are playing. I'll give credit to Ryan Day. He said that this was an important game for the state, and I agree with him. I wish I saw more of these P4 and Group of 5 interstate matchups. As a WVU fan on the side myself, I might get a lot of flack for this, but I wish WVU and Marshall played every year. I think it's great for the states, so love to see a matchup like this. And another matchup that's going to be interstate is Central Michigan traveling to the Big House to take on Michigan. This is a bounce-back game for Michigan after they lost to OU last week. I think they'll bounce back strong. I don't think Central Michigan's going to fare too well in this one. Michigan's going to come out angry. But I love that it's a chance for a smaller school to play that bigger state school within their season.
Yeah, and keeping on the track of bounce-back games, we got SMU going to Missouri State on Saturday. Another P4 going to a G5. There seems to be a trend going on here of some bigger teams traveling to the lesser schools. And this is a massive game for SMU. Can they right the ship after that late collapse, terrible collapse against Baylor in this past weekend's games?
Yeah, I think SMU is going to bounce back strong here. Missouri State, shout out them getting that first win as an FBS program last week against Marshall. But I don't think SMU is going to take too kindly to the loss they faced last week, and I think that they might beat Missouri State in a rout in this one.
Yeah. And then another bounce-back game we got here is Texas State traveling to Arizona State on Saturday. ASU needs a massive win here to really get their season back on track.
Yeah, they stumbled against Mississippi State, a team that I do have in my rankings now. They're deservingly so, but not a team I was high on. So Arizona State, if they can get the ship righted here, I think Kenny Dillingham will get those boys buzzing, and I think they're going to show up strong in Big 12 play. This is an opportunity to fix the mistakes that they've had, get that passing attack going, and really right the ship.
Yep.
But a key rivalry this weekend, and one that I'm personally invested into, is the Backyard Brawl. Pitt travels to WVU in Morgantown Saturday at 3:30. These two teams hate each other. I will be at this game. It is my first time getting to go to a Backyard Brawl. I might be a JMU Duke fan now, but I grew up a big WVU fan. So this is an awesome chance for me to experience it. That stadium's going to be rocking despite WVU losing last week. It is a chance for Rich Rod to avenge the 13-2-9 disaster in 07, a game that legitimately gives me nightmares to this day. And I really hope he can pull it off. It would be a massive win for WVU at home in front of a home crowd. However, I do think WVU is in a big rebuilding phase this year. They had, I believe, the second most transfers besides Southern Miss, with 80 total coming in this year following Rich Rod. I don't expect them to compete hard this year in the Big 12, but a rivalry game, as 13-9 shows, anything can happen, but I do think Pitt's the better team. One thing to note here is WVU starting running back Jaheim White is out for the year. That's a huge loss for the Nears.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a game that's a lot of fun. I'll be out tailgating in the blue lot. If you see me, come say hi or don't. whatever you want.
Yeah, it's always a good one. We love our rivalry games here, especially the backyard brawl. I have a lot of family in West Virginia, so I would consider myself a West Virginia fan. So I've always grew up and heard about it and known about it. I've never been able to experience it, but I'm sure you'll have a great time there, and it's going to be a great game. Hopefully in the good ways. So
yeah, I hope so. I haven't been to a WVU game in quite some time. Got to go to the WVU Penn State game in Morgantown, but I didn't actually get into the game. I just hung out with my cousin, his friends. So hoping this one, once I get in the stadium, it's going to be a great one, regardless. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and speaking of some more games of the week, we want to really deep dive into these games. They are our top matchups of the week here to start off here. We're going to start with Clemson traveling to Georgia Tech Saturday at noon.
Yeah, this is a really big chance for Georgia Tech to prove that they are a top 25 team. Clemson has won 9 in a row against them, though, so it's not going to be an easy task. Early season matchup. If Georgia Tech can win this, they're going to earn a lot of respect. We already know our buddy Will is super high on Georgia Tech. Wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech pulls this off. You see a huge jump in the Dynasty Dummy rankings for them.
Oh, yeah.
But I think a big thing here is that can Tech avoid their early mistakes and turnovers? That is going to be a key for them. If they keep making mistakes like that, Clemson is going to make them pay for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, losing a turnover battle almost loses you the game, I would say 99.9% of the time. So if Clemson's defense can continue to be disruptive and cause Tech to get to make those early mistakes, then it could turn lopsided pretty quickly here. And obviously some of the key players here is Clemson's quarterback, Cade Klubnik, early Heisman favorite in the season, hasn't played well so far. Can he finally get going, even after a not-so-great showing in the previous week when they barely edged out a win in week 2? And then a big question going into this is, can Georgia Tech's quarterback, Haynes King, actually play? He missed out on last week's game with a lower body injury, and from what I have seen as the day we are recording this, he is making progress, and it looks like he should be good to go, barring any major setbacks. But even then, going into that game with an injured quarterback, especially a lower body injury, and how Haynes King plays, where he puts his body on the line every single time.
It's fun to watch.
It's stellar football to watch. I love him just like our buddy Will loves him. I think Haynes King is like a brick wall as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, that Georgia game last year, he's putting his body on the line. He's hitting every moving thing he can just to get in the end zone, and it showed in week 1 in the Colorado game as well. So maybe it's starting to catch up to him. I don't know, but it's hopefully he can stay healthy and play, because when he's playing, Georgia Tech is much more entertaining.
Yeah, that style of play is taxing on the body, no doubt about it. I do think for Georgia Tech, if Haynes King cannot suit up, I don't give him much of a chance in this one. If he can suit up and play, I think it's going to be a dogfight. However, if he does not, look for redshirt freshman Aaron Philo to make his second start. He had a strong performance last week against Gardner-Webb, but I think we both can agree Clemson's a little bit more of a challenge and puzzle
Just a little
to solve
bit.
Gardner.
Just a little bit.
But they do have a great running back duo in Jamal Haynes and Malachi Hosley. They combined for 192 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. This is a really potent running attack, regardless if King is in the game or not. However, I think he gets them over that edge, and with a game like this against Clemson, you have to be able to get over that hump. But, Tony, after all this, who do you think takes this game and why?
It's going to come down to the health of Haynes King for me, because like you had said, if he plays, it can absolutely be a dogfest. And from what I've seen early in the season, it doesn't look like Clemson's got him in them right now. Something's just not clicking for that team right now. They've just been super sloppy. And so if Haynes King can play and he brings that fight to the team, I think they can walk away. But something is telling me that Clemson gets it done on the road. It finally clicks a little bit better for their offense. Might not be perfect, but I think something finally clicks for them and they get it going, unfortunately, for Georgia Tech.
I think that's a great point. but not so fast, my friend. I think Tech is going to get it done this week.
Okay.
As long as King plays. If King plays, then I'm going to have to eat my words. But I think Georgia Tech at home, I think it's early in the season. We've seen Clemson under Dabo Swinney stumble early in the season before. I think this is a really good opportunity for Tech against a Clemson team that's still finding their footing a little bit. If they can go out and punch Clemson in the face, I think they're going to come out on top. I think they're going to edge this one out 34-31 in a really close game where Clemson barely just misses out from the comeback.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, for me it's purely dependent on Haynes King health. If he plays, I would want to pick Georgia Tech, like you said. I mean, so we'll have to wait and see if our king plays.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of kings, the former king of college football takes on Wisconsin when Wisconsin goes to Tuscaloosa to take on Bama Saturday at noon. Big question for me is, can Bama show signs of life against an FBS team? They looked a little rough that first week against Florida State, pummeled UL Monroe last week, but I don't think we're going to take UL Monroe as seriously as Wisconsin. I do think Bama is the better team in this one, but I need to see that spark of life in them. They haven't lost at home against a unranked team since 2007. I think they're going to get the job done this week, but I'm very interested to see how it is. What are you looking for, Tony? What do you think is something that you need to see from Bama this week?
Yeah, Bama just needs to have a complete game from top to bottom. I mean, you expect that from that program every day of the week, every time they step out on the field, and we have yet to see it. So it's really going to start from the way they get onto the bus, from the way they get back onto it after the game. So we'll have to see if this team comes in disciplined against an FBS team in Wisconsin that is a very defensive team. So we'll have to see if they can crack the code, unlock that defense, and just get it rolling. I'm going to have to go with Alabama here. I think they get it done at home against the Wisconsin team that, on the lesser side of the Big Ten, usually not in the fight of it. So I think Alabama wins by, I'll say, probably 10+.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be double digits, especially with a key injury to look out for. Wisconsin quarterback Billy Edwards is questionable with a left knee sprain. He left week 1 early and did not play last week. If he does not play, Danny O'Neal will get the start in his place. I just don't think Wisconsin has the firepower to keep up with Bama, especially with their quarterback Ty Simpson, who went perfect last week, 17-17 and 3 touchdowns against UL Monroe. But I agree with you. I think Bama wins this one by double digits. So I don't think there's much to look into too closely here. But if Wisconsin can keep it close and Wisconsin can make it competitive, DeBoer's seat is going to get that much harder.
Absolutely, he might be alongside his buddy Billy Napier here soon in the hot seats. So we'll have to see how this pans out for him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think a little bit more of an interesting matchup though is when Texas A&M travels to South Bend to face Notre Dame Saturday at 7:30. Notre Dame is needs to start hot after coming off of a bye week. They lost to Miami week 1 in a really good game that really lived up to the hype, but they're going to, I think, have a little bit of advantage playing at home, having that bye week to prepare for a tough Texas A&M puzzle to solve. I think that Notre Dame needs to win this game. It is their only ranked team left on their schedule. They do have some tough teams left. They still play schools like USC, Boise, Navy, and Pitt. But this is going to be their last guaranteed option to beat a ranked team and to show to the playoff committee that they're capable of making that 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and it's extremely important for a program like Notre Dame being an independent still. They need to show that they are still competitive and they can win against these teams that are ranked at the moment. I mean, I could see a USC possibly turning into a ranked game maybe down the line, but that's not a guarantee. So you never know.
Yeah.
Some key players in this game, for me especially, is Notre Dame's running back Jeremiah Love, who was very, very quiet in week 1 against Miami. And there was possible dealing with an injury there early in the game. And he's a fantastic player, almost I think was the consensus RB1 going into the season. And had extremely high expectations, and so he needs to. I don't know if it's injury wise or whatnot, but he needs to get it going, and that offense needs to get it going.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremiah Love is a heck of a player. I'm really high on him. If you play NFL Dynasty football, you know you're looking at him come this draft season next year. But I think from an A&M perspective, QB Marcel Reed is going to be the key to this game for him. He needs to protect the ball and take what the defense gives him. Notre Dame struggled to generate pressure week 1 against Miami, only getting 4 total pressures on Beck. If Marcel Reed plays smart, lets the offensive line take care of him, they have a good chance to win this game and playing smart football. But I also want to give a shout out to KC Concepcion, NCAA 25 legend as well. Heck of a name, but also heck of a player. 9 catches, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns so far through the season. But just really a fun name to say from the NC State transfer.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. I mean, when I first heard his name, I thought I was having a seizure or something because I was like, did I just hear that right? But it's a fantastic name. He's also a fantastic player. One other player I want to point out for A&M is their running back, Le'Veon Moss. Can he get going? They need to establish a running game, I think, against Notre Dame because it seemed like that's what helped Miami a lot, was getting those good chunk runs to really set the tone on offense and get those second and short opportunities. So can they get him going? I think he's a good player, so he should be able to get a decent game going, seeing as how so far Marcel Reed is the leading rusher on Texas A&M with just over 100 yards. So they really need to get their running backs churning and burning.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Not great when your leading rusher is your quarterback at only 100 yards.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard to beat a team like Notre Dame like that. But speaking of the results, Tony, who do you got in this one?
I think I'm gonna go with the reverse result here from last year. I think Texas A&M travels to Notre Dame and gets it done. Something just doesn't seem right about Notre Dame so far this season, and I think an early bye week is actually going to hurt them more than help them. I don't like playing a game that early and then getting a random week off. I feel like it kind of just throws things off and just doesn't do the program or the team well. So I think Texas A&M is going to go in there, and I think they're going to get it done in a nail biter. I'll say something along the lines of a 24-21.
I like it. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, though, for the exact opposite reasons. I think Notre Dame's going to get this one because of the bye week. They had that tough game against Miami. I thought they looked pretty good in that game, tough week 1 matchup, but I think having a week to really study film, see where your mistakes are, and then get to play in front of that home crowd in South Bend is going to be that difference maker. It is really hard to beat a team that is coming off a bye with that much time to prep, that much time to get comfortable with that week's scheme. I think Notre Dame is going to get this one done. I think they're going to win by double digits. I'm not a huge fan of A&M this year. I think they're a good team, but they have a really great opportunity to make me eat my words. But I'm going to take Notre Dame here. I think it's going to be somewhere around 27-17, and it's not going to be particularly close in the second half despite the score.
Yeah, I mean, agree to disagree.
I guess we'll find out in the recap episode.
Yep, we will find out in our recap episode. But moving on to a very interesting matchup here with early SEC play. Vanderbilt traveling to South Carolina on Saturday night.
Yeah, this is my underrated matchup of the week, in my opinion. I think this has a really good chance to be game of the week and when all is said and done. Vanderbilt showed last year that they're always dangerous, but they have not beat South Carolina since 2008. It has been a long time for the Commodores before they've beaten the Gamecocks. So I think that it's important for South Carolina to defend its ranking. They haven't played tough competition yet, but if they can beat a Vanderbilt team, I think they're going to get some respect on them because Vanderbilt has earned that. They do share a common opponent in Virginia Tech, and Vandy, quite frankly, demolished Virginia Tech in that second half. But I don't want to read too far into it. South Carolina played them week 1. They're still figuring things out. It's going to be a very interesting matchup in South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, Vanderbilt looks like a team to be reckoned with right now. It seems like they're just steamrolling, and after a somewhat lackluster performance from South Carolina in week 2, it's it's almost like the writing's on the wall, where it seems like Vanderbilt might just go down to South Carolina and just take it away from them. But I think it's really going to come down to between the quarterbacks. I mean, Diego Pavia and Lenora Sellers, they're almost identical types of quarterbacks, both dual threat options. And I think it's going to come down to who can pass the ball better. I'm looking out for South Carolina if Lenora Sellers can hit that deep ball to Nick Harbor. We all know Nick Harbor is one of the fastest receivers in the nation.
Oh.
He just now committed full-time to football this past season. He was trying out for the Olympics.
That's
so
crazy, man.
Insane for someone at his size to be able to do that. So if they can unlock that connection, they could definitely be a team to be reckoned with, because even if it's not there, the threat of it is there, and it could open up a lot for Lenora Sellers on the run.
Yeah, I think Sellers is a really great quarterback, and Harbor is just so dangerous. Crazy to think that he is playing some of the highest level football at the college level, and he was essentially doing it part-time.
Yeah.
He's a heck of a player. I do think that deep ball is going to be key. I think South Carolina has a little bit more potent of that passing attack, like you said, but I think Pavia is he has an X factor into him. He's got that chip on his shoulder.
Yep.
You never know what Vandy's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, so who do you think is going to come out of the win with this one?
I think I'm going to have to go with Vanderbilt. I think they're going to be able to get it done on the road. I think the early season matchup favors them. I think the little bit of that grit and grind that they show is going to be the difference maker. I think it's going to be an extremely tight contest, somewhere along the lines of 28-24, 28-27. I think it's going to be extremely tight. I think Vandy's just going to be able to squeak it out, and it's going to be a really big win for them if they can.
Yeah, I think we're on opposite ends here for this one. I'm going to go South Carolina in an absolute nail-biter. I think it could come down to who can manage the clock better and turnovers. Can these dual threat quarterbacks hold on to the ball and not commit any silly turnovers? So I think the team that comes out of there with less turnovers will come out with the win. I'm going to say South Carolina, maybe by game-winning field goal or defensive stop, goal line stop. Could even go into overtime. I mean, I'd love to see a 7 overtime game between these two. It would be
free football.
Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, I would love to see. I would love to see Pavia and Sellers just go back and forth on 2-point conversions. I think it would be entertaining football.
I think that would convince me that the new 2-point conversion overtime rule is worth it. If the Georgia Tech game against Georgia didn't last year, seeing these two QBs just duel it out from the 3-yard line might convince me.
Yeah, so I think, like we've said, it's going to come down to those two and who has the better of the game, and I think whoever can control the ball better and not make those silly mistakes is definitely going to come out with it. And I think Lenoris might just have that edge just slightly. I think Pavia is a fantastic quarterback, and I cheer for him. I love him as a player, but I think it's just South Carolina's just going to eke out of it.
I like where your head's at. I think it's going to be a great game. Speaking of great games, I think this one is going to be a good one too. Florida travels to Baton Rouge, Death Valley, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. A really tough bounce-back game for Florida after that disappointing loss at home to South Florida. It's a chance for LSU to establish itself against a tough Florida team and LSU as a top team, despite Florida not being ranked. I think they're still a really respectable team in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, Florida, we know, has an extremely tough schedule just in general. Going into this game after a just crushing loss to USF, where it seemed like they should have won and they had the opportunity to and just couldn't grasp onto it. And so it's going to be tough to bounce back against an LSU team that's riding high right now and riding high in the rankings as well. Going into Death Valley is this the time where Billy Napier just collapses altogether? Because if it turns into a route running by LSU, it could be over sooner rather than later for Billy Napier.
Yeah, we talked about it in the recap episode. Shameless plug, go check that one out. But how hot does his seat get if they lose here? He's Florida fans are not happy. They're at the door, pitchforks, torches. They're not happy. This is potentially a program-defining win for him if he can get it. In order to get it, though, they got to get after the quarterback. Florida has to be able to attack Nunsmeyer, get him uncomfortable. If they can do that, it's anyone's game. If not, I think Florida's going to keep riding that low and might start out the season 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it could get even worse for Florida after 1-2. They could potentially go 1-4 maybe. I mean, they play LSU this week, number 3 LSU, then number 5 Miami, at Miami, host Texas, and then go to Texas A&M. Those are all ranked opponents. Tough schedule. I mean, whether or not you want to say, SEC bias and whatnot, that's tough regardless. And for a team like Florida, where they are supposed to be a lot better than they are, this is now make or break for them, and this will really tell us who they are in these next couple games. I think it's going to come down to DJ Lagway alone. I mean, he has to be able to execute the shorter plays, the easier plays. They need to establish a good offensive drive and not these quick 3-and-outs, or maybe get one first down and then a 3-and-out after that. You have to be able to hold on to the ball, especially on the road in a very hostile environment. You need to be able to control the clock early, and it helps if you establish the run as well. So we'll have to see how Florida tries to handle this.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And speaking of establishing the run, I think that is the key for LSU this game. They haven't quite gotten it figured out so far. A little early season turmoil with getting that running game started. They cannot solely depend on the big plays from Nunsmeyer, who I think is their player to watch this week. He's, like we talked about earlier, Heisman favorite right now, or tied for the favorite, I should say. If they can help him out by getting that running game established, Florida's in for a long day, I think. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it plays out. I think one thing to note injury-wise is LSU starting center Braylon Moore is a game-time decision at the time of this recording with a high ankle sprain. Center, very underrated position. I think most people would agree. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. It's a big loss if he doesn't play for them. They're lucky that the game is at home. I think if it's in the Swamp, it's an even bigger loss. But losing your starting center is never easy to recover from.
Yeah, the O-line, especially the center, can make or break games. Coming from a Dolphins fan that knows this with terrible O-line play the past 10, 15 years.
You don't say.
Yeah, so especially the center, that handoff to the quarterback is what decides plays. If it's slightly off, it can throw off an entire play based on timing. So like you said, I think the loss could be mitigated a little bit purely because they are at home. There could be better communication between the center and the quarterback, and having a little more time to possibly practice with the backup if he is not good to go will also help. So I think I'm probably gonna have to go with LSU here I'm gonna say a convincing fashion. They seem like they're just kind of riding high, and Florida is just super down in the dumps. Nothing can get going for them right now against any team that is, competitive. And LSU just finds a way to get it done. I think they win. I'm going to say probably by 10 points. I'll say probably like a 31-21 sort of thing.
Yeah, partner, I'm right there with you. We're back on track here in agreement. I think LSU gets it done. I think Florida, we talked about this tough schedule they have ahead. You can say it's a challenge, or you could say it's an opportunity to get some really good ranked wins. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done against LSU this week. I think they're riding a real low wave after that disappointing loss and the fashion that it happened at home against Southern Florida. It is going to be a good game, but I think LSU does win in convincing fashion. I think it's going to be a double-digit win for LSU by the end of it.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. And then moving into the next big game of the week, where our good old friends of College Game Day will be at this week in good old Rocky Top, Tennessee, where Georgia is traveling to Tennessee on Saturday in the midday game.
Yeah, 3:30 kickoff. Neyland's going to be rocking. That is a stadium that I know for a fact it gets loud. Yeah. It's going to be a really tough challenge for Georgia on the road. But it's a really good chance for them to get that marquee win of the season early on, or for Tennessee to prove that it's one of the big dogs. I have Georgia sitting at number 9 in my rankings. I personally don't have Tennessee ranked yet. I think this is an opportunity for Georgia to really boost their ranking. I don't have them ranked at 9 because I think they're bad. I think the teams in front of them have just had better wins. They've had a better opportunity to showcase themselves. But this is a chance for both teams to prove that they're one of the top teams in the SEC early in the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a massive matchup. I mean, Tennessee is ranked. I have them ranked 15 right now in mine, and I have Georgia sitting at 6. So a very close matchup here. I mean, a win here could push Georgia into the top 5, depending on some other results here. But this is a chance for Tennessee to establish themselves as a legit team this year. I mean, their quarterback, the transfer Joey Aguilar, looks great so far in that offense. They look revitalized almost,
Yep.
where like they're actually clicking and they're playing well. So it'll be interesting to see how he can go against a usually, if not always, really good Georgia defense.
Yeah, the App State transfer, I've seen him play in person. I've seen him rip my Duke's hearts out at College Game Day a couple years ago. That's another game that legit gives me nightmares, and Joey Aguilar is a big conductor in that one. This will be the toughest team he's faced in his career, I think, as he's coming from that App State background. I think if Tennessee wants to help him get comfortable, a key for them is to establish the run game. Don't let Aguilar just have to throw it 45 times. If they can get the running game going with Star Thompson, their running back, it's going to be a really good chance for them to get a win at home while College Game Day comes to town.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good matchup here, and I'm glad to see that I'm okay with College Game Day going there because I feel like this has some pretty early season implications, and obviously being SEC, it's always going to have times 5 more implications.
Yeah,
but
I actually heard from what I read, I heard that there's challenge that Game Day potentially actually wanted to go to the USF Miami game, but because Hard Rock Stadium is not owned by the university, it presented some unique challenges with city code, so they actually put that one on the back burner. I don't know how true that is. That's just what I've read, but I do think this is a game deserving of College Game Day regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, but we're going to go ahead and just jump into the game that we wish College Game Day had gotten, and that's my game of the week and has...
Well, before we get into this, who do you got winning the Georgia-Tennessee game?
Oh, correct. Yes, you're right. I think I'm going to go Georgia here. I think their experience and their coaching experience with Kirby Smart, he's done it all at this point. I think it gives them that edge over Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee is a bad team by any sort of means, but I think it's just could turn into something a little too much for them. And they have some injuries to their starting corners with Jermod, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, McCoy, still recovering from an ACL tear from January, and then Ricky Gibson III with an arm injury that he suffered in the season opener. So their secondary will be lacking. I think just Georgia has enough in them just to be able to get it done on the road. So I'll go Georgia by, I'll say probably a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm taking Georgia in this one as well. I think those injuries at cornerback are going to be a big difference maker. I think Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton is going to be able to take advantage of that by attacking the outside and the sidelines. I think Georgia's actually going to win this one in convincing fashion. Unfortunately for Tennessee, I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're a great team. I think Georgia has the potential to be a great team, and I think they're going to show it this week, and Tennessee's going to get a little bit of awakening at home, unfortunately.
Yeah. So now to jump into the game that I'm excited for.
I think
we're all excited
the
for.
Dynasty Dumbies game of the week.
Yeah, I'm willing to say that this is our game of the week here, where USF is traveling down south to Miami to play my number 2 team in the country, Miami and the Hurricanes.
Mine as well.
Yes. In a game that surprisingly right now the spread is at 17.5. I mean, for as much as USF's done, I thought that would have been a little more favorable for them, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
A little disrespectful.
I'm not surprised at the same time. We know how these sports books love to favor their power conference teams, especially a team like Miami, and how well they're playing. You can't really knock them too much, but biggest question out of this game, why is it on the CW network? I don't know if it was something that was established years ago or whenever the schedule was actually conceived of like, oh, like USF, no big deal. We'll give them a nationally televised game, I guess, but on a lesser network. How do you not flex this game? How is this not flexed into an ESPN slot or an ABC slot?
Yeah, I'm not sure how these television network contracts play out, but I want to say that since it's owned by the rights to this game is owned by the CW, there's no room to flex because they aren't part of ESPN, they aren't part of Fox, they aren't part of NBC, whoever it might be. They own the rights to this game, and this is not a game they want to give up. This, for me, is a top 5 matchup. I have USF at number 5. I know in the AP poll it's 15 versus number 8. We've seen USF knock off the number 5 team in the country before. I think they got a chance to do it this week. No disrespect to the CW. I wish this was on a little bit bigger of a network because I think this is going to be a really great game. A lot more Florida football action. The state of Florida really making some good teams this year. But in order to win, USF has to play cool, calm, and collected. They cannot come in too high off of the strong start to the season. They showed that at the Swamp. I think Hard Rock's a little bit easier of a stadium to play at ever since they moved Miami's home games off of campus. I think USF does have a real shot at this, but it's not going to be easy. Miami I have as the number 2 team in the country, and deservingly so.
Yeah, this game could purely come down to quarterback play. And Carson Beck, we all know, has looked absolutely revitalized this season. He looks like he's back to his old self after suffering that injury last year. And he's just surrounded by a good team as well. I mean, that offense is clicking. The defense is doing very well. So it'll be interesting to see how the USF quarterback and Byron Brown can adjust to this and how the team can adjust to this. And like you said, I think it's a much easier environment. Hard Rock is a great stadium, but
no disrespect to Miami fans, it's hard for them to get there.
It's very hard. It's out of the way. It's Hard Rock's up in Miami Gardens, completely not even in the city of Miami. So it's a bit of a hectic way, and I could see some USF fans making the trek there because why not? You go down south, you get to see the city, you can get to go to South Beach one. Go have some fun while you're down there, and maybe see your team beat a top 5 team in the nation. It's nothing better to ask for, right? So. I think this is by far head over heels game of the week, and it's gonna hopefully it plays out to it. I don't want this to get all this hype and it turn into just a slugfest, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see it turn into a slugfest as well. But my gut and my head, it's telling me Miami's gonna take the win here. But it's not going to be easy. I think they end up winning by, I will say 10 plus, but it's not going to be easy. I think for the start of the game, I think USF kind of goes back and forth. Maybe they both get some stops here and there, some 3 and outs, maybe score an early touchdown or 2, and then it's just going to come down to that second half. Can they contain it? Can they keep the momentum going for all 4 quarters? And I think that's where Miami just starts to pull away.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. I think it's really going to come down to the second half. This whole week I've been thinking about this game. I've been leaning Miami the whole time, but as I'm sitting here, we're talking about it. I think I got to give USF the nod here. I don't know. I disrespected them last week. I took Florida. I'm going to ride with them this week. Maybe I'll regret it, but I think their quarterback, Brian Brown, we've talked about him a bunch. He has been lethal this year. If he can continue to extend plays and USF can keep that fast pace of offense going, I think Miami's going to be in some real trouble. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think the spread of 17.5 is super disrespectful, and I think that's really what convinced me to go with USF on this one. I'm going to take USF 25-21 in a real nail-biter where they just squeak it out. And really what's at stake for them, for both of these teams, for me personally, is the number 1 ranking in my poll. Whoever wins this game will be ranked number 1 for me next week, regardless of what happens elsewhere. For me, this is a top 5 matchup. Whoever wins this game will be the number one team. And whoever loses this game is going to be in just fine spot too. I think in the world of the College Football Playoff Committee, even if USF loses this one, it is going to be a game that is a quality lesson for them, not a quality loss. And I think it will bode well for them regardless of the result, as long as they can keep it close.
Yeah, I think USF has already done enough this season to show that they can still absolutely stay in contention. If, one loss to an outstanding Miami team is not going to destroy their season. So I'm in agreement with you there where, depending on who's win this game, could very much jump up to 1 in my rankings. USF might – I have them at 11 right now, so that would be quite the big jump. But if they pull it off, I think I'd have to give them the edge and just throw them up there at that 1. And I think for Miami as well, if they, go and win against a ranked team, a top 15 team in my rankings, and it shows that they're still very much a legit team, and they get 2 really good wins early on, both at home, albeit, and they still don't leave the state of Florida till November 1st when they travel to SMU. But it's good to get it done at home when you need to, and this will be a true test for them. And I'm so excited for this game. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week of college football in general. Conference games kicking off. Some intense rivalry games happening, just some quality football to be watched this weekend. But let us know what you guys are looking out for this week. What upsets do you think are going to be in store? Who's your team to watch this week? Who's your Heisman hopeful? Let us know down in the comments and tell us what you're most excited for going into week 3.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll see you after the weekend in our recap episode.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Dumbies and on Instagram. And if you'd like, follow our personal Twitter accounts. Mine is at Hunter_Shaw5. Tony's is at CronyTony20. And we'll see you after the weekend for the recap show.
Take care.